My name is Sergeant Matt Sanders, and I'm the commander of the Media and Public Relations Department for the Louisville Metro Police Department. I'm here to offer you today's run of show quickly. So in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to our mayor, Mayor Craig Greenberg, who will offer some remarks. Following the mayor, LMPD's Chief Gwinn-Villaroel, will issue a statement. And then the mayor will finish this brief. We will not be taking any questions at the podium today. All questions subsequent to this brief should be emailed directly to my office, lmpdpio@louisvilleky.gov. Immediately following this brief, my office will publish relevant documents to our forward-facing transparency page. Relevant redacted videos will be posted to our YouTube channel. We will link off to these websites on our official Twitter account. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Last Friday morning, our community suffered the tragic death with loss of Mr. Mills just after 5 a.m. in the morning. That tragic death led to a series of very unfortunate events in dark, rainy, and tense conditions. Transparency is incredibly important to our administration, to LMPD, to our community. Given the importance of transparency, we're releasing some information and some video today, as we committed to, following the tragic events and series of events that happened thereafter. To restate what we've already said, we are not aware at this time of any video footage which captures the initial interaction between LMPD and Mr. Scheffler. We are releasing today video footage at the time of Mr. Scheffler's arrest from 2 video cameras. One of those video cameras is a fixed pole camera that is from the other side of Shelbyville Road, and the other camera is from the dash cam of a police car. At the request of the county attorney's office, any additional video or evidence related to this case will not be released until the conclusion of the legal process. Chief Jacqueline Gwinn-Villaroel is now going to speak to the investigation of the arresting officer with respect to the lack of use of body-worn camera. Chief?
Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your patience as we worked together all available facts regarding this incident. Obviously, it is of great public interest, so we appreciate you providing us the time to ensure that we release accurate information while the judicial process is occurring. We are grateful to PGA officials and Mayor Greenberg for bringing this prestigious event to our beautiful city on last week. But tragically, last Friday we lost a beloved community member who was working the event. As we stated in our preliminary public message, LMPD expresses its sincere condolences to the family and friends of John Mills, who was fatally struck by a shuttle bus outside of Valhalla Golf Club. By all accounts, we have learned that Mr. Mills was known for his kindness and dedication to our community. His passing has left a notable void in the golfing community and throughout the city. Regarding the results of our internal investigation, Detective Gillis did have an encounter, as we know, with Mr. Scottie Scheffler. Detective Gillis should have turned on his body-worn camera, but did not. His failure to do so is a violation of the LMPD policy on uniforms and equipment, subject category body-worn camera, and he was sustained for a violation of the policy 4.31.6 procedures and 4.31.7 operation. Detective Gillis did not have his body-worn camera operationally ready as required by our policy. He was performing a law enforcement action as defined in our policy. Further, in section 4.31.7 states, members will maintain their BWC in a constant state of operational readiness. Detective Gillis was counseled by his supervisor. We understand the seriousness of the failure to capture this interaction, which is why our officer has received corrective action for this policy violation. This corrective action has been notated on a performance observation form, which is in line with our disciplinary protocol and practices. We respect the judicial process, and we will allow the courts to proceed accordingly. We will not be able to make any further statements as it relates to this matter. At the conclusion of this press conference, as you've already heard, we will release the documents as follows. You will find the investigative findings memorandum by the commander of the unit. You will also see the failure to activate form completed by Detective Gillis. You will also find our policy located as well as the two aforementioned video footage that the mayor has mentioned. Also, all this information will be uploaded to our YouTube page. I would like to take a point of privilege to thank again Mayor Greenberg, the local media, and the national media for making every effort to provide fair reporting. But I also want to take a moment to thank all law enforcement officials around the nation for the work that you do every day. And I'm truly grateful for LMPD's dedication to keeping this community safe here in Louisville. We thank you and we appreciate your support as we navigate through this process. Mayor?
Thank you, Chief. In Louisville, around the country, but especially here in Louisville, after the recent past, activating body-worn cameras is critically important for our police department to have evidence, to maintain the community's trust, to be transparent. So, Chief, I appreciate the speed at which with you have conducted the investigation into this situation. You have dealt with it transparently and straightforwardly, and we are all looking to move forward. I know there are a lot of questions right now from every member of the media here and people across the entire city. But we have to respect the legal process, and that's what we are going to do, and we're going to let that play out. We want to move forward. Mr. Scheffler has made it clear that he wants to be moved forward. And I know that everyone else involved at LMPD wants to move forward. LMPD needs to be focused on reducing the amount of violent crime in our city, reducing the amount of gun violence, protecting and keeping people safe. That is what they do every day. That's what they've done since last Friday when they were working with a detail out at Valhalla and on Shelbyville Road, and that's what they will continue to do. So again, we understand there are a lot of questions. We are going to respect the legal process, and I'm very hopeful that on June 3rd, the next step in the legal process, that all parties are in a position to move forward. Thank you all very much.
Detective Gillis have issued a citation rather than the arrest.
So relatively brief comments from the police chief, Louisville, Kentucky, and the city's mayor, Craig Greenberg. Really the big takeaway here is that the officer, Brian Gillis, has received what they call corrective action for failing to turn on his body-worn camera in that incident, the arrest of Scottie Scheffler last Friday. Let's bring in Todd Lewis once again. And Todd, what's your takeaway from what you heard?
Well, they were transparent in regards to making it public that there was no body cam footage, and we have yet to see, and we hope to see it today, the two positions of video, the pole cam and the dash cam from another police cruiser in regards to the arrest. But according to the mayor there and to the chief, that there's actually no video of the incident, but more of the arrest. So we'll wait and see how that video plays out. But yeah, we didn't really know what to expect in regards to this press conference. Would the charges be dropped? Would they continue to go forward? But obviously, they're going to continue to go forward. So now it's a trial date set for June the 3rd, and Scottie Scheffler right now is scheduled to be in court to stand in front of a judge to face arraignment.
Rex, what, if anything, struck you from the press conference?
The last part of it, Rich, when the mayor talked about how speedy this investigation was. Normally, they don't go this quick. I think there is an urgency within the department to make sure you get this right. With such a high-profile player like Scottie Scheffler being arrested before the second round of the PGA Championship, I think there's also some questions still remaining. Obviously, they talked about corrective action when it came to Detective Gillis not activating his cameras, and as well as the policy itself. As you pointed out earlier, that him directing traffic, he did not have to have the camera activated. What exactly does it mean when it comes to corrective actions? What will happen to the officer?
Rex, thank you. We'll check back in, both Rex and Todd, on an as-needed basis. Joined now by Johnson Wagner. Reaction?
I mean, I think like most golf fans, I kind of wanted the charges to be dropped against Scottie Scheffler. I know Scottie. I've played golf with him. I've been around him a ton. I've never seen him be malicious towards anybody, much less a police officer. I take him at his word and everything that he said, that it was a misunderstanding. I think he was directed to go one way and somebody told him to stop. I don't think there was any, I don't know the details.
We simply don't know all the details yet. And to be fair, as the mayor just said, we just have to let the legal process play out.
But for me personally, I think Scottie Scheffler is one of the finest human beings I've been around. He's done nothing to prove that to me otherwise in either conversation personally with me or me observing him from afar. And I have one more thing to add. Getting into a PGA Tour event through the front gate is always hard. You magnify that being a major championship, it's even more elevated. And then when you obviously have the tragedy that we had last Friday morning, it was a scene. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced. The difficulty of getting in. So I mean, it was a mess out there.
Even before the tragedy of Friday morning, there was considerable chatter on the grounds, particularly in the locker room amongst the players, that it was a little hectic getting in and out.
It was. I remember Shinnecock U.S. Open being very difficult, and Kiowa Island is also another one. But this one, with the amount of traffic coming in, it was one of the most difficult entrances to a golf tournament I've ever witnessed.
You want to know what keeps officials of these massive events up at night? Among the many factors and facets they look at when staging a tournament would be the movement, the safe movement, free flow of pedestrians and vehicles. There's a lot that goes into it, egress and regress, and there were a lot of people on the grounds last week.
It was packed, and by all accounts, general parking was 18 miles away. There were buses being pulled in everywhere. I thought the flow of traffic was pretty good on the golf course, but by the weekend, it was so crowded that I think a lot of patrons were maybe going places they shouldn't.
Yeah. Let's bring in Todd once again. And Todd, I know you've had some interaction with Scottie's lawyer, Stephen Romine. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Stephen Romine was actually in the room with the police chief and mayor there, and you can pull up the police report in regards to what the arresting officer, Brian Gillis, has to say that happened in that arrest. Now, according to Mr. Romine, who's speaking on behalf of Scottie Scheffler, Scottie was told to turn into a lane by a traffic officer, and then as he moved forward, the arresting officer, Brian Gillis, didn't simply have that information, and that's where the confrontation took place and ultimately the arrest. Now, that is Scottie Scheffler's account via his attorney, Stephen Romine. Now, Stephen Romine, again, was in the room with the mayor and the police chief. He was expected to give a comment in about 5 minutes out in front of the courthouse, and that will be his only comment in regards to the press conference.
Todd, I'm just curious. You may not know the answer, but there's this idea out there that the charges might be dropped. Again, no indication of that in the press conference that we just heard. The mayor stating explicitly they are going to let the legal process play out. What can you tell us with respect to that possibility?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier prior to the press conference. According to Mr. Romines, who is representing Scottie Scheffler, there will be no settlement in regards to these charges. There will be no plea, no lessening of the charges. They will either go to trial to face the full brunt of all four of these charges, including a felony, or the charges will be dropped. Those are the only two outcomes in regards to Scottie Scheffler. So, yeah, we're still up in the air, and you're exactly right. You know, some may think that these charges ought to be dropped. I haven't seen the video. We're going to have to wait and see what the newly released video shows. But again, according to the mayor and the police chief, there is no video of the actual incident, but more of the arrest. So it looks like on June 3rd, as of now, Scottie Scheffler, along with his attorney, will be in a courtroom in Louisville.
Rex, what more do you have?
And this goes back to a conversation I had with Stephen Romines, as well as him talking to Todd Lewis. He plans, just to be perfectly clear here, to plead not guilty to all four counts, including the felony charge that you pointed out, Rich. And it's also important to point out that he does need to be in that court on June 3rd. That is Monday. That's Monday of Memorial Week, which we assume being a signature event that Scottie Scheffler would want to play in. So at this point going forward, Scottie will have a court date the week of a tournament.
Todd, I want to go back to you, because you've had close interactions with Scottie. How did it strike you with Scottie's comments that he made Friday after his round with respect to police officers? I thought he showed tremendous respect, not only for the officers who were involved in his particular incident, but just across the board, police officers, wherever they might be.
I mean, Scottie Scheffler is that way for every human on the planet, much less a police officer. I mean, you talk to his fellow players, you talk to those who interact with him on a golf course, be it officials or marshals or even fans. And Scottie Scheffler is just a crescendo of politeness and respect. I mean, that's just who he is. It's just in him. But yeah, I mean, he has been shaken a bit. He did have family there at Valhalla after the incident. He spent quality time with his wife, Meredith, their newborn son, who is he's actually roughly 2 weeks old. But yeah, I agree. It is kind of shaking to see that Scottie Scheffler was arrested for doing something disrespectful to an officer. But yeah, he holds officers and anyone with authority with great respect and treats every human that he encounters with great respect.
And Todd, there is Stephen Romines, that is Scottie Scheffler's lawyer. He's waiting to give his own remarks. What do you know about Stephen Romines, local Louisville attorney, from what I
pretty
can gather? Yeah, respected.
I don't think anyone can move an inch, to be honest. Yeah, pretty. He was hired by Scheffler and his team there, and he's about to make some comments. We should probably go there now.
It won't impact the case at all. Our position's the same as it was last Friday. Scottie Scheffler didn't do anything wrong. We're not interested in settling the case. We will either try it or it'll be dismissed. It's very simple. All the evidence that continues to come out just continues to support what Scottie said all along. This was a chaotic situation and a miscommunication, and he didn't do anything wrong.
Were you expecting it to be dropped today?
I've been doing this 30 years. I don't expect anything. We're prepared to litigate the case if need to. If we don't need to, fine, but our position remains the same. It will either be dismissed or we'll go to trial.
Why do you think that Mike O'Connell went to court the other day?
I can't speculate on anybody else's reasoning. As they said, we'll let the process play out. My role in the process is to represent Scottie Scheffler, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Nothing has changed since my comment last Friday. He didn't do anything wrong. We will go to trial, or the case will be dismissed. We have no interest in settling the case. There's no discussions regarding that. We're prepared to litigate it as deeply.
Steve, the mayor mentioned 2 pieces of video. Are you aware of other
I've
video?
I've seen everything that there is to see, everything.
All right, right, so just some technical difficulties there, but I think we all get the basic gist of what Stephen Romine, Scottie's lawyer, is saying. Scottie Scheffler didn't do anything wrong. All the evidence coming out continues to support that. It'll either be dismissed or we will go to trial. So, Rex, what'd you make of what you heard from Scottie's attorney?
He's been really consistent on this, Rich, ever since the first conversation I had with him, certainly ever since the first conversation that Todd Lewis had with him, that there will be no settling, that he will take this to trial. Now, when I spoke with him on Monday, he actually gave me the same line that you just heard in that press conference, that he's been doing this a long time and that nothing really surprises him as it applies to if he thought they were going to drop the charges today. As a matter of fact, on Monday, when I spoke with Stephen Romine, he actually went to rumors that were swirling around Valhalla over the weekend that those charges were going to get dropped as early as Sunday evening. He said that was not true, and he does not anticipate that happening anytime soon. Now, this also goes to the idea, the sensitivities of what's going on in Louisville right now. There was a recent Department of Justice investigation into the department's handling of certain incidents, into certain arrests. They actually found that the department had violated civil rights on numerous fronts. So you get an idea of why both sides are being extremely careful here, Rich.
Yeah, it is a police department that has been under tremendous scrutiny and some pressure, unquestionably. Todd, what'd you take away from those remarks from Stephen Romine?
Yeah, I agree with Rex. He is very consistent. He said that on Friday afternoon when we interviewed him, and we showed his interview on the Golf Channel and on social media, that they are not going to settle. He said that Scottie Scheffler did nothing wrong. This was a complete misunderstanding. And according to Scottie Scheffler and via Stephen Romine, this was a miscommunication between one officer and another, and then an interaction took place, and then ultimately an arrest. So, as Rex pointed out, it looks as if that Scottie Scheffler is going to show up, at least as of now. It's going to have to show up in court on June the 3rd, the week of the memorial, and address the charges in front of him.
Todd, I just want to go back very quickly to that meeting that you mentioned at Valhalla while the tournament was ongoing Friday. I believe you said the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, the mayor, whom we just saw, Craig Greenberg, and Seth Waugh from the PGA of America. Any sense as to what that might have been, the details of what they might have spoken about?
No, it was a highly secure meeting. They didn't let me in. So they're pretty tight-lipped in regards to what was going on in that meeting there. But, I mean, it was, I can tell you, the incident that morning, and, of course, not only the Scottie Scheffler arrest, but the tragedy of loss of life was mentioned in that meeting. And, again, going through the proper protocols and dealing with the municipality and the police department, and one that has been under scrutiny, as Rex has pointed out. There are steps that you have to take, and it seems as if that is what the mayor and the police chief are doing right now in regards to this case.
Todd, thank you. Let's recap now what happened. Again, we had a press conference this morning coming out of Louisville, Kentucky, and we'll take you back to the timeline where this all began. So tragically, just after 5 a.m. on Friday morning in the rain, under darkness, fatal accident. John Mills, working security at the tournament, hit by a shuttle bus and killed. He was 69. Scottie Scheffler, then trying to get into the club, is detained by Louisville police. A lot of confusion. He's then booked and released at 8:40. He's back at the golf course getting ready for his second round, teeing off at 10:08, so less than an hour after arriving back at Valhalla. And then at 3:29, he completes his second round, shooting 66. Again, to be clear, Scottie was not in any way involved in that fatal accident. Here's the footage that was surreal and shocking as we all woke up on Friday morning. This was captured by Jeff Darlington, the ESPN reporter who happened to be on his way into the club right as this was happening. Scottie led to that police car, handcuffed, taken to the police department where he was booked and charged on 4 different counts, as you'll see. 1, second-degree assault of a police officer, and that is a felony. Then third-degree criminal mischief, disregarding signals from officers, directing traffic, and reckless driving.